Okay, I cleaned another cage. This is the cage of my larger group of mice. There's 10 mice living in here. So whilst I cleaned, I put everybody in here. And I'm also going to do roll call. I've got 30 mice right now, and it's very important to occasionally do roll call just to make sure everybody's accounted for, everybody's healthy. So I have these sheets, and now as I put this lot back into the cage, I will cross off who I have, just in case somebody's escaped and I didn't notice when I was cleaning, because they're very good at sneaking past you. So I'm going to start here with, these lot are not as tame as my other ones, because when you have so many mice you have to prioritize a little bit who you spend time with, and these are actually my excess mice. But they still have a good life and I still love them. So now we'll pick up Maisie. She's one of my favorites, little Chubbo. So we have Maisie. So now I will cross her name off right here. Maisie. So she is accounted for. Here is Oscar. He is one of my oldest mice right now, my second oldest mouse. He used to have trouble integrating with everybody, but now he is quite happy with his little troop of girls. And there's another neutered male in this group as well, Apollo, and they get along really well. So he's finally found a family, and he's a content little boy. He's getting close to 2 years old, but he's doing really well. He's a little bit thin, but otherwise he's really healthy. So no problems with little Oscar. So we'll cross him off. Now this one here is, let's see who we get next. This one is Millicent, and she's kind of cool. She was born black, but now as she gets older, she gets more and more grey in her, and she's like black speckled with grey. And I've never seen this color before. I don't think it's just an age-related thing. I think it's actually her genetics. So she's a cool little mouse, very confident and dominant, but she gets along well with her little troop. There she goes. So Millicent, her name gets crossed off. So who we're going to get next? Let's see, who should we get next? Apollo. So Apollo is a male I got to bring a little bit of fresh blood in with my breeding program, and he is the father of Summer and of Frost and Snow. And he's a confident little guy. If I spent more time with him, I think he could become quite a friendly little guy. He's not bad. He's quite confident in my hand here. He's a pretty little guy. He's actually looks a little bit like a black-eyed white, but he's actually a very, very pale cream. So he's kind of unusual color. That's why when I saw him at the pet store, I had to get him. And he and Oscar get along really well. No problems there. And he's happy with all the girls. So Apollo needs to be crossed off. So who else are we going to get? This one. She is a very shy little girl. This is part of the ones that I bred for the science fair project that I did with my intern Rachel. Her name is Noelle. She is very flighty, but very pretty. There she goes. So Noelle is accounted for. So who else do we get? This is one of my favorites, little Hope. Hope is one of the mums from the science fair project, and she has a wonderful personality. She is the mother of Leo and of Amara, and they both inherited her great little personality. And she herself isn't as tame as her offspring. That's because she wasn't handled as much when she was young. The trick is, as soon as they're born, you start handling them. But she's an awesome little mouse. I really like Hope. There she goes. So that's Hope. So who else? Let's get... This is Celine, very confident mouse. She is Amara's sister. She's actually quite an aggressive mouse, and that's one reason why she's in with this troop. It was hard integrating her with anybody else, but she seems happy with this lot. There's 10 mice in here, and mice usually get along better if they're in smaller groups, but this group, they seem to have settled down quite nicely. Everybody's a little bit on the older side, and that usually mellows them out and makes them a bit less aggressive. So let's put across here Celine. So So here is, this is Diana. She's a little on the shy side, that's why she squeaked when I tried to pick her up. She's again part of the group that I bred for the science fair project. And she's a lovely little mouse. She's good with babies. I've had her in with helping raise babies. But now she's in this group and she seems reasonably happy, reasonably well integrated. So that was Diana. So who should we get next? Olivia. This is Olivia. She's a sweet little mouse. She's Asriel's sister. And she was born at the same time as Millicent. A lot of mice get chubby as they get older, and that's what's happened with Olivia. She's a good little girl. Down you go. Have to watch out that nobody escapes, because we do sometimes have little ones that really want to explore the studio, so I have to keep an eye out for that. So that was Olivia, so she gets crossed off. Olivia, no, you gotta stay in there. Okay, so now we're left over with these two, and these two are identical. They're mother and daughter, and I cannot tell them apart. And this is unusual because usually age, they change their look depending on how old they are, but I have no idea. These are Dusty and Ivy. Dusty is the mom, Ivy's the daughter. Dusty is really unusual. She is my oldest mouse. She's just a little bit younger than Knox. And she is so young looking that I cannot tell her apart from her daughter. And she isn't a very nice mouse. She's always been super aggressive, super difficult, super flighty. And now she's living like, she's almost 2 years old now. She's living forever, despite not being a very nice mouse. But old age has mellowed her out a little bit, and there's much less fighting with her. And her daughter has inherited her same aggressive personality, and she's a little less flighty, but I haven't been handling them much, and I just cannot tell these two apart. So they're my little ginger girls, difficult little ginger girls, and I have no idea who I'm picking up because they look utterly identical. They're both very flighty, they're both very aggressive, even though old age has mellowed them out a little bit. So let's go get this one. No idea who this is. It's either Ivy or it's Dusty. Okay, let's see. Let's see, I have a feeling this is probably Dusty because she was more flighty. So those are the last two, so they're all accounted for. And I have to go through the other pens and make sure everybody else is accounted for as well. But I think they'll all be there because now that we've got these stable little groups and they're in their own little compartments, everybody's very content and nobody has any desire to leave. Except for this little lot, they'd kind of like to have a little bit more freedom. My guess is this Ivy because it's a little bit more outgoing than her mom. Her mom's very flighty. So now I think we'll just watch them for a little bit. It's always good to watch them to make sure that everybody's healthy, that everybody's getting along, that nobody's being bullied, and everything's okay. And so far they look super healthy. I have to, unfortunately, when you get so many mice, it starts getting very expensive. So with this lot I have to cut a few corners. So they're on aspen shavings. So we'll see how they do, because usually when it comes to beddings, mice are very sensitive, much more so than hamsters, so you have to really watch it. My favorite bedding is called Uber. It's a paper-based bedding, and it's really good because they've really managed to take out all the dust, and mice are super, super sensitive to dust. And aspen, unfortunately, still has a lot of dust in it, and I usually go by the rule, I have lots of allergies. If I feel allergic to a bedding, odds are the mice will too. So I'm a little worried. I did give them the aspen shavings. We'll see how it goes. I'll have to watch them a bit, because I had a really real allergic reaction to the dust of the aspen, and I don't have it with the Uber. So we'll see. So I'll just have to watch them. If anybody starts sneezing, I have to clean the cage again and give them the more expensive bedding. Yeah, having lots of mice is a lot of fun, but it's also a lot more work and an amazingly much more expensive, especially bedding. Bedding is so expensive. In the old days I had them on fleece, and that could be reused over and over again, but then you have the time thing. You have to change it much more often. So with this many mice, I've switched now to having the more traditional beddings because it just saves time. And with the Uber's wonderful because nobody gets sick. It's like finally they've perfected a bedding for mice. Aspen shaving's a little bit iffy still, so I'll watch these little guys and see how they do. There's a type of kitty litter. It's made out of old newspapers, and that's what I used with them last time. But it gives off a really strong sort of chemical odor, and it takes a few days to a week to dissipate. And if it bothers me, it'll bother the mice. So I'm not going to use that again. So we'll see how the aspen does. Everybody seems happy, nobody gets sneezy. We might use it again. I just have to accept that I'll have major allergies until everything settles down. They seem very happy. They always love new cages. Yeah, Millicent is one of my little explorers. I'll have to watch her. They love new cages. I've given them a few extra things in here to make it nice. I always feel a little bit bad for the excess mice because they get less of my attention. So I have to make sure that they still have a really good life. So here they've gotten fresh dandelion leaves. And little Oscar's enjoying that. Oski had a real hard time when I first got him. He got bullied a lot. And it was kind of sweet. He would look for me and he'd climb on my shoulder to be away from the bullies. I felt really bad for him. He had to be isolated for a while. But now finally he's all part of a group and he's a happy little boy. Apollo's always been a real low-key little guy, but when I bred him, I bred him with Isa, and Isa's a nervy little girl. She inherited that from her mom, Winter. So all his babies are nervous, which is a shame. I was hoping they'd get more his temperament, but they did get his good looks. He is a beautiful little guy. There's little Olivia, who's been a reasonably confident little girl. And there's my wonderful Hope. When you film mice intensely, like I did for the science fair project, you really get to know the mice and become very fond of them. And Hope was a phenomenal mom. She's a great little girl. And here's one of our troublemakers. Yeah, flighty little ginger jobs who I can't tell apart. And then I've given them a new log. They love rotten logs, but you have to be careful when you give it to them. And this one I collected last year, and it had a whole winter of -30 type weather. We had -30 for like a month. We had a very short winter, but quite cold for a month, and that would have killed off a lot of the bugs. And then it was in a hot greenhouse all summer, so that would have killed the rest. So now it's just a wonderful log that's really soft, and they'll be able to tear it apart, dig tunnels in there, and just have a ball with it. And then I've given them aspen leaves, aspen branches. They love aspen branches. They're great for climbing on, chewing on. They like to rip off the leaves. They use the leaves to make nests or just to play with. Sometimes they just like to run around with stuff in their mouths and popcorn and have fun. So, and then we got the water bowl. I prefer using water bowls over water bottles, because water bottles, they just fail too easily, and mice can become dehydrated very, very quickly. So you want to make sure they always have water, and water bowls that you can do. They do have a very strong instinct, though, to put bedding into their water, so you have to have it up high like this. And sometimes even that doesn't really work, because you'll have somebody who's just too obsessed about putting stuff in water bowls. And then you just have to be on top of it, and you have to clean it every day and change it and make sure everything's doing okay. I think the reason they have that instinct to fill up water bottles is because water bowls is because it's an excellent place where babies can drown, and when the babies are just starting to crawl, they could get into trouble. And I think that's why they have this really strong instinct to fill any water holes near their nest box. When I have young mice, then I still use the water bowls, but I put much shallower ones in there, so there's not the risk that they're going to drown. Plus they're up high, so only once they get a certain amount of agility can they go up and actually start drinking. Sickly mice, I also make sure that the bowls are shallow, and then I put the bowls down on the ground so that a sickly mouse can easily get to it. And we did have a sickly mouse the other day. There was another little mouse in here called Pearl. She was kind of cool because she was iridescent, white with gold, and she was part of my science fair project mice. But sadly, I couldn't save her. Something was very wrong with her, and She passed away, so that always happens, and that's why you always have to keep an eye on everybody to make sure everybody's healthy, nobody needs extra care, and everything's going okay, because mice only live a year to a year and a half on average, so there's always little ones that are not doing too well occasionally, and you have to be on top of things. I love this little one. This is Maisie. She's such a sweet little thing. She's so cute. Hey, Maisie. I'm very fond of you. And this is Celine, who is a little escapee. She escaped when I was cleaning. Part of the Science Fair Project babies again. Amara's sister, so she's quite smart. So then I've given them also a nice place to sleep. And they'll probably choose this as their sleeping hut. The last time, the last cage set up, they all slept in there, and I put it in the same spot. You want it to be different when you make a new cage, so it's exciting, but not too different. So they've got a few of the old things in here. And then behind this log, I've put a whole bunch of leaves, so they'll probably make a nest in there too. So despite the fact that these guys don't get as much attention, and there's 10 of them living all together, so there's occasional squabbles, overall I think they're a happy little bunch. And I'm doing good by them, even if they don't get as much attention. The way I chose who goes into here and who goes up here, is that I'm getting ready for the film project. So up here, I've put mice into pairs, because for the film project, I'll need a dad and a mum. And so we've got 4 pairs up here that are potential candidates. And then it's good always to have a third mouse in there to help out with baby care. So we've got at least up here, there's 3 mice in here, 3 mice in here, 5 in there, and 4 in the back one, which I showed you yesterday. And then, of course, Midas and Mara. Midas is such a difficult little guy. He's very, very picky who he gets to be with. And plus, he has a health issue with his ear. So he's in his own cage. Even though I've added another mouse, he's accepted his mum. So now he's with 3 mice. He's with Amara, who he adores. And he's with his mum, who he also adores. So tried to integrate him with a young female, but he wouldn't have anything to do with her. And she ended up getting beaten up quite badly, so I had to put her back. She's fine, but with Midas, he can be very aggressive, so you really got to watch out with him. There, I think everybody's doing really good. This is just a temporary cage. I'm halfway through finishing my new studio, so this is eventually going to become just a storage area. But, since it was really easy to set up as a temporary cage, that's what I did. Since I needed the space, with 30 mice, you need lots of space. So I discovered that if you want to make a temporary cage, you can do a lot with 10 plus. 10 plus is sort of a plastic, and it's really sturdy. They can't really chew it. And so I made these panels, and I'm just attaching them with Velcro. Works quite well. At first they did manage to escape, at least a few of my smarter ones, so I had to put this Velcro fuzz all along here to make sure there isn't any gap, so nobody can escape. Someone's thinking about it. Oh. So I think I'm going to leave everybody to it. They all seem very happy. Yeah, and so we'll put the lid back on. It can be a little tricky when you attach it. You've got to make sure it's attached really well so nobody can escape. And there we go. Happy little mousies.